Hello, welcome to the Table Talk podcast, where we sit down, pull up a chair, and we get started. This podcast is designed to provide you packed full of information to help you with your training, nutrition, lifestyle, and well-being, where we interview myself through case studies to give you lifetime experience. And then we also interview high-performing individuals or other career-focused people who are looking to make changes in their lifestyle, training, nutrition, and well-being. So let's pull up that chair and let's go. All right, welcome to the next episode where we actually dive deeper into understanding Serene Dellit, or Delight, or Delete. So hopefully we all stay on her good side. So we're going in this episode talk more about yoga therapy. So myself, I've done yoga for many years, but Serene has taken it to the next level, which is known as yoga therapy. And that's really, in yoga, you run practices, you run movements, and obviously you can create a sequence. But she'll actually go through an extensive questionnaire. She mentioned in the previous podcast, can go up to an hour and a half. Whew. And then can actually go through specific poses, routines, movement, breath work, chanting. As we all know, that's a lot of words for me, so I'm out on that one. So she's obviously the go-to person for this. So Serene, tell us more, what is yoga therapy?
So yoga therapy is a little bit different to your typical studio classes. Yoga therapy essentially supports and empowers individuals' progress towards improved mental, physical health and well-being. And we use the science and philosophy and practices of yoga. And it really differs from contemporary yoga classes as we work in a one-on-one setting, normally working with individuals' needs. So we consider not only any illnesses, any injuries, but their lifestyle, personal preferences, and personal goals. And I guess a key intention of yoga therapy is really to reduce any suffering, manage any symptoms of illness or injury, improve function, and even shift perspective. So whilst it really complements other forms of healthcare and Western medicine, Western modalities, we tend to look at the whole being. So that kind of summarizes
The whole person,
yoga therapy.
Right, I mean,
pardon?
So the whole body, not just the right arm.
Yes.
Interesting.
The whole being,
Who'd have
not
thought?
just the
body. One thing you said is that it's very, from the sounds of it, it's very personalized, so one-to-one. And you said it's not really studio like class or yoga. Is that a big misconception about the yoga? Like, I'm going to say yoga industry because it just feels weird because I missed the fitness industry, but yoga industry as a whole is very holistic. So is there a misconception of what yoga therapy is, or do people just go, oh, it's yoga, combine it?
Yeah, I think if you ask most people, they wouldn't even really know yoga therapy exists as a modality or as a therapeutic modality. And those clients who I've worked with so far, I guess there is a bit of a misconception in terms of what it entails. I think people do sometimes come to these sessions expecting to be given a sequence of poses, but that's where the individual work comes into it. After we've gone through that initial assessment, we might determine that actually poses aren't the best fit for what you need right now. We might prescribe or recommend something a little different, whether that be a more meditation-centered practice, or it might even just be suggesting to somebody getting out and spending more time in nature, or going for a daily walk, or making some lifestyle changes or shifts within their life. So it is very different to a typical yoga class. And it may be that we encourage more attendance at yoga classes. So really it depends on like the individual and what they're working with, what they're working through. in terms of what we'll suggest to them at the time, and that will vary from week to week as well. So it's ever changing. As we're ever changing, we're ever evolving, our practice is ever changing. So we always work with individuals to meet them where they're at on any given day, any given time of day as well. So making sure that the practices are accessible for them. A lot of the time we are working with people who have an injury or illness, whether that's mental health, or they need help with pain management, or they have an illness like whether it's diabetes or cancer or a heart condition.
Ooh, big ones.
So, pardon?
Big ones.
It could be, yeah, anything.
Mm.
So anything that somebody needs extra support and help with, that tends to be who we would work with in this kind of setting. But yeah, I mean, it really varies from individual to individual. So we're always like meeting them where they're at. So I think there is a bit of a misconception of what people expect. Maybe a lot of people think we're just going to put them through a vigorous yoga class, or help them to touch their toes, or something like that. But the honest truth is it's different for each person that we work with as in a yoga therapy setting.
Cancer. So if I have, let's say I've got diabetes and Kate's got diabetes, you don't go, all right, you both do the exact same thing?
No, that's right. So I'll never forget one case study that one of our teachers described to us throughout this course. There were two people presented, both with depression, a husband and wife, and whilst they were experiencing similar symptoms, the causes of their depression were two very different things. So they were both given very different practices.
Yeah.
One was more
one was
like
him, one was her, or both different careers. Yep.
yeah.
Different, so
And
slight differences. Yep.
same to your point about like if both you and Kate had diabetes or something, your practices might look very different because your lifestyles are potentially very different. You're possibly more active because you have a movement-based job, whereas Kate works in a corporate environment, possibly spending a lot of time, in front of a computer. Not to say she's any less active,
Doing
but
handstands.
yeah, I mean, she is a strong lady. Like, she's incredible. But yeah, it's just like little differences like that. Or you might manage stress differently, or you might have different preferences. Like if I suggested to you, Karl, we're going to sit here and chant for 10 minutes, you might turn around and say to me, no, that's too airy fairy. Knowing you, I'm sure you would embrace it. You would love it. I know you would. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry, you broke up there. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into these sessions, and also getting an understanding of people's personalities and how they interact with life day to day. All of that kind of thing comes into it when we're assessing someone or working with someone. So yeah, it's very varied.
Yeah, wow. Well, from that, like, so it's really not just go to a class, hold the warrior pose, sweat like crazy, muscles aching. It's more, let's sit down, let's find out where you are, what's going on, where you want to be, and then really work with those people and watch Kate meditate whilst Karl does not meditate. Moving on. So, okay, wow. Well, and as one of the things you've said previously before, like in the last episode, was that a lot of your stuff comes from, you believe that people should practice, have their own teachers to teach them so they can help more. Has there been a really big experience for you that's really made a shift, especially over the last, I think it was you've done this for 2 years now?
Yes, studying for 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So people will say, when was the big payoff? But I guess for you, what was the big turning point? Like, did you always know you were going to do yoga therapy, or was there a point where you went, I know what I need to do?
Interestingly, when I found out yoga therapy was a thing, I kind of thought that I would do it later in life. But I guess when COVID happened and we were all forced to spend a lot of time indoors, I kind of took a step
Oh,
back. Yeah, I hate to say the dreaded C word and bring that up, but I was thinking, what am I going to do with my time? I may as well enroll in this course now. Not knowing how long, of course, we were going to be living in lockdown, but it certainly kept me busy, kept me motivated, gave me something to strive
it
for,
take two
something to do
years.
with.
Yeah.
God, who knew?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You didn't plan that.
no, God, no.
But yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess, and also, so I've always had a pretty continuous yoga practice and been pretty dedicated to practicing yoga, but um, I knew there was more to it and kind of wanted to explore ways in which we can really help people and make a difference, and also, I guess, also make it more accessible to others as well. Working with different illnesses or injury, or yeah, I don't know. I've always just been really fascinated, and this just seemed like the next step for me in my learning journey
So it obviously
at the
paid off.
time.
It really
Yeah.
paid off to have that shift. But didn't pay off that COVID decided
No,
to
no,
lock us down for a long time.
no.
Which of course you planned, of course.
Oh God.
Um, so you're kind of, when did you plan? Like, were you planning like 5, 10 years later? And then you were like, oh, well, like, might as well.
I thought it would be something I would do when I was ready to kind of, I guess, yeah, 10, 20 years maybe down the line, when I was ready to take a step back from my corporate career, and had more time in my hands. So yeah, I definitely thought it would be something I would do, also with more experience, teaching yoga as well behind me. But I don't know, it was yeah, it just seemed like the natural next thing to do at the time.
Just do both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why step down when you can just add more to life? Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
why not?
storming a teacup.
Exactly. Just pile it all on. It's okay.
Well, then having more, like, obviously, people call it stress. Other, like, I would call it a load, because that it's really exciting that you created an opportunity, or you didn't create COVID. Calm down, everyone. But obviously, COVID created an opportunity for, like, I know myself. I went inwards. I really shut down for a good month. And Kate and I talked, like, how was it? She's like, you sucked. Like, oh, my bad. But so I went definitely inwards, but you obviously flourished in that time to really learn and grow. Um, Through that, you're doing the job, your career, but then you've taken on much more. You wanted to drop back in decades, but you ended up doing both. So, quite, what, 40 hours a week the average person works. So you probably doubled that with your studies. Was it like quite overwhelming for you? How did you feel then?
Not at the time, and time wise, because I didn't really have a lot else to do. So it really filled my time in a really like productive way and gave me something to strive for. But I mean, it was certainly challenging. And at certain points I didn't feel ready, or, felt like maybe I stepped into it too soon, because it was such uh, a huge thing to learn, like a huge subject to learn, and I still feel like I'm learning. So
Mm.
I think, time wise, yes, it took up a lot of time, but in the best ways.
Through those challenges, like some tough times, what helped you stay focused or on track? Like, was there any techniques or strategies you were using to stay like, no, like I need to stay on this course, I'm not going to deviate, or I'm not going to get extensions. Like, how did you stay on top to stay focused?
I think always, I think it's like we mentioned earlier, routine. Like I'm a creature of habit. If I keep a good routine, and just take time to like nourish myself as well with practicing regularly, and just making things more simpler as well. You don't have to necessarily go to your mat and practice for an hour or 2 hours at a time, just creating little rituals and threading them out throughout your day and focusing on shorter practices, to keep myself anchored and focused and present. I think that really helped me. So anytime that I am feeling particularly stressed or anxious or challenged, I always just come back to my practice. Like that's the biggest thing for me. Whether it's a particular breath work or chanting more recently, like I mentioned earlier, has been a really powerful anchoring practice for me as well, because it keeps me focused and it really helps for me to come back to presence as well. So I think I think that's it for me. Just continuing
Do
to
it.
come back to practice and maintaining my routine. It's
Well,
not always
okay.
possible, but
Well, what if let's say, hypothetically, let's say I go, all right, well, I'm going to go do yoga therapy now.
yeah.
Oh, it's like, whoop, shit. I made a mistake. Is it as simple as roll my mat out, I move a little bit, cool, or like, how am I setting up? I guess there's three parts to it, because obviously breathing is part. You got, as you said, chanting, and then there's moving on the flow on the mat. So for the flow, is it I get the mat out, I start going through the sequences, so I start moving.
Are you talking about if you were a client or?
So I'm noticing, like, you know we were going to stop this job, like dial this job back in the future, and then take on yoga therapy. We've gone, yeah, let's do both. So some people are like, well, I've got an extra 40 hours in the week, and then when they start, they go, oh my gosh. And your advice, stay anchored. So you've got three things there, which is get on the mat and move. So it's as simple as roll the mat out, just start. Second, how am I setting up? So, you mentioned if you're tired, there are other things you can do, which is really cool. Because, when it comes to training, most people just skip training. I believe you should just train a different body part. Everyone should train carbs, or even just do cardio for 20 minutes, which is aligned with your movement. But how am I setting up to do a meditation or a chant versus how am I setting up to do the breathing?
I think to answer that question, it depends on the individual. And for me personally, I like to practice what's called a Kriya meditation, which consists of about 5 or 6 different breath practices. So I would normally do that seated. So sitting cross-legged, supported by a block or a bolster, and then work through those different breath practices and then sit in meditation. Or if I have less time, I like to practice a mantra meditation. So focusing on that repetition of a word or a bija mantra. I find repetition to be really powerful for me personally as well.
I'm
So
delightful. I am delightful.
yeah.
I'm delightful. Yep. So
um,
like as simple as that, just repeating a word, or yeah.
so one practice that I really love to do is called a So Hum mantra meditation. So normally you'd find yourself in a seat. You can do it reclined in any shape that feels comfortable, that you feel supported in. And all you're doing is repeating the mantra, so hum. So with each breath you take in, you think in your mind the word so, and as you breathe out, hum. So you just continue repeating so hum.
Um.
So,
So,
um, and you might do that for a certain period of time,
so
or
pause
you might
here and
do it,
start.
yeah, 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
or for a certain number of repetitions. So I find that to be a really soothing and supportive practice to do. If I was to pick one practice to share with people, I guess
So,
that would be my go-to. Yeah,
yeah.
so
And it's as easy as just 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be, as you said, the hour or the 2 hour. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Anything that helps you to find focus and find presence within your body. So if that means movement for you, if that means, yeah, mantra meditation like that or a breath practice, it can be as simple as doing it for 5 minutes, two
Mm.
minutes. That's all you can manage.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm done.
As
Yeah,
long
it
as you
started.
feel centered and calm, you're
Yeah.
good to go.
But it's also a start for people because, as you
Yeah,
said, like it doesn't have to be an hour or 2 hours. But should be 3 hours, of course, of 3 hours or 5 to 10 minutes.
only for the
Um,
hardcore people in the group, sure.
24 hours. Um, have you, like, you've had a lot of mentors or teachers over the years. Are there any, and obviously with each teacher, there are certain sequences or flows that they would have. Uh, I know we could talk about this all day, but what are probably, who are the three teachers that come to mind? Um, or three major lessons that you've gotten from like really influence kind of what you do in your practice and the yoga therapy?
Um, I have so many teachers that I really look up to. It's hard to name just three.
15
Um,
hours later. And that's
exactly.
it.
Um, I guess more recently, some of the more influential teachers who come to mind are Nicola Ellis, who was the facilitator of the yoga therapy training that I did, as well as Sunita Patil, Tracy Gerza, who facilitated parts of that training as well. So the beautiful thing about, excuse me, the course that I did was there were um, many different teachers, not just one. So we had different facilitators who really specialized on the different topics that we were learning about each week come in and share their knowledge with us. So we were really exposed to some really knowledgeable and incredible people within their fields, which made the training really quite varied. So there are just a couple that come to mind. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I had 300 names pop through my head. Well, let's stay on those. Well, where are they located? So, where did you go to start this? Was it Yin,
Um,
BML?
the yoga therapy.
Yeah.
So the yoga therapy training was run by Nicola Ellis from Adore Yoga. And fortunately for me at the time, the course was shifted. So it was all online. She
Yeah.
used to do the course in person, but given the nature of the world we were living in at the time, all of the course was shifted online. So it was a lot of online learning. So you can really she has a number of different courses available, from shorter courses, whether it's yoga therapy specific or meditation courses, or the 2-year course that I did with her. You can find her online, Adore Yoga. And many of the teachers were based in Sydney. Others were all around Australia. A couple of international teachers came in to share their knowledge as well. So we were really fortunate to be able to learn from so many different amazing people.
Yeah. Wow. Many. Tour yoga. So, from the extensive teachers, three have been named. What? Well, let's stay with three as a theme. What were the three major lessons um, for you that's really shaped what you do? And obviously, you've been doing it for 9 years. So obviously, we've got 9 years that we can really cram. Or those that are wondering, how many days is that? That is 3,285 days of lessons. What is out of those 3,285? What were the three most impactful in shaping who you are today and what you do?
And from the lens of yoga therapy, one of the biggest lessons that stuck with me, something that my teacher Nicola would always say, person, purpose, practice. So it always starts with the person that you're working with, because everyone is so uniquely individual. And then from there, thinking about the purpose, like what is the purpose for them wanting to learn about yoga therapy, or what is it that they want to gain from yoga therapy, and then from there determining the practice. So it all comes back to everyone it comes back to creating a really personalized experience for each individual you're working with.
Mm-hmm. So that's one. Even though you said person, purpose, practice, so that's one.
It's a theme of threes. Us listening. So two more. I think another is it doesn't need to be complicated. And going back to what we were chatting about earlier, it doesn't need to be a 3-hour practice. It can be as simple as...
It must be complicated. It must be hard. Yeah.
It can be as simple as like 2 minutes or 5 minutes, or it just
Yeah. Yeah, wow. It doesn't have to be complicated. Yep.
Sometimes the simplest shifts can make the biggest impact. Like the simplest lifestyle change can really make a huge impact towards someone's well-being.
Yeah. COVID, simple, easy. Change the world. Piece of cake. Force lightly guide Serene into yoga therapy. Just lock everything down. Yeah. Simple.
A gentle nudge.
Yeah. No travel. Just lock yourself in a house. What else could you? Complexity gone. Troubles.
Yeah. And then the third thing, I think, the third lesson is that we need to do the work personally. If we're wanting to make change in our lives, we're the ones that have to make the change. And us as professionals supporting people, we're here to help guide and empower people to really take ownership of their own wellness journey. So
hang on. You mean I'm gonna pay you, boop, and I'm gonna have to do the work? Ugh.
Yeah, Karl. I mean, you would know as a trainer, you can't run on a treadmill for your clients and for them to expect to get fit or...
But wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah.
The world, if we lived in a world and it's like, just, Serene, if you could just go do that breathing and practice for me, and you're like, I love this. And then, 30 minutes later, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great?
World to live in? Like, what's that movie where they've all got time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like,
what is that called?
Change and
exchange. I know the one. Yeah.
Time. Yeah, I'm going to type in time movie. Yeah, I got a movie that says, it's called In Time. Okay, there you go.
That is a good film. I haven't seen it for years. It was a long time when I watched that movie, but it really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, like 25, boom. Now everyone's got certain amount, like a year to live. All right, so I'll give you my time, you do my yoga, and I'll do your time, I'll train. Together, we'll get strong.
Deal. I'm down for that.
So we've got look, to be honest, it summarizes person, purpose, practice, but you've got to do it. So know thy enemy, which is usually themselves. So if you believe you can't do it, your body will tell you you're right. So yeah, very powerful. What's You mentioned way back with yoga therapy, it's kind of a combination of the science and the philosophy of yoga.
Mm.
So we've got two different philosophies here. How are you staying up to date with all of that?
I think spending time with my teachers and learning from my teachers. They're always learning new things, so I'm always learning new things from them. Um, Also, just referring back to some of the original texts, like studying the Yoga Sutras, studying books from the likes of BSK Iyengar, and just, yeah, continually absorbing knowledge from all areas and keeping things diverse as well. I think it's really important to diversify where we're getting our knowledge from. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It's Um, how would I know? So if I'm going to learn, I go, Google, tell me more about yoga theory. How do I know if I'm getting ripped off? Of, like, because there's so much out
Mm,
there, right? How do I know if
that's
it's the
true.
right stuff? Like how can we stay current and up to date to make sure that we are improving moving forward and we're not getting the wrong information and maybe causing ourselves harm and going backwards?
Mm. So I think it's a really important question. So, and I think that's where diversifying where our knowledge is coming from is really important. So not only looking at yoga specific um, teachings, but also keeping current with whatever it is you kind of specialize in. So, for example, if you specialize in mental health, learning from um, learning from professionals in the mental health space, whether that's psychologists or social workers, and surrounding yourself with like-minded professionals as well, I think
Mm.
is really important. So no matter what kind of avenue um, you specialize in, but surrounding yourself with a really good team of people, not only yoga teachers or, if you're working with people with pathologies, uh, um, making contact with the likes of physiotherapists or chiropractors, those kind of people, like, um, yeah, just having a really supportive team and network of people around you that you can go to for advice when you're unsure of certain
Mm.
things, and you can continue to like develop your learning as well.
And is that a big thing that you're really focused on improving on? Is really just building your referrals and your network of other
Mm.
specialists out there?
Absolutely, definitely. I'm very fortunate at the moment teaching at Rhythm Wellness, which is a yoga, well, it's really a wellness, holistic wellness center, I guess you could say. And it's owned and run by a lady named Darla, who is a physiotherapist. So there's physiotherapy clients come through, and she has many different rooms within the center. She has massage therapists practice there. She has nutritionists practice there. So I'm very fortunate there that I, have the connections through teaching at Rhythm Wellness and guidance and support of Darla as well. So there's definitely like a referral opportunities there, and that works both ways as well.
Yeah, really holistic, right? Being able to work with the muscles, the mind, the gut, the
Yeah,
microbiome. Yeah, wow.
it's incredible.
Right. So that's a huge opportunity there, like obviously where you're placed and where you're positioned. Do you see outside of where you're currently located, obviously you having a career in travel, and travel Australia, um, do you see big challenges? Like, is there conflicting challenges for you over the years? Because obviously, one career is taking off and you've got another career that's taken off and they're both expanding. Are there big challenges for you personally and then in your own yoga therapy journey? or are there more opportunities for you? How do you see that?
I think, yeah, they're both very different career paths. Um, at the moment, like I'm managing both. I'm really feel like I'm only just starting in the yoga therapy space. So I would only ever take on as many clients as I can while still being able to perform well at my full-time job. But certainly in time, like I envision it growing and expanding. But I think maintaining like the balance for now is just really, yeah, really important. I don't quite know how to summarize or answer that.
Well, it's probably, well, I'll simplify it because obviously I'm not the greatest with words. So let's just, because today's about yoga therapy, what opportunities or challenges do you see coming in the coming years? We've got the Kraken virus now, which is great. I love that that's a strand of COVID, the Kraken.
Is it
Um,
really?
yeah, Kraken.
Okay,
I love
I
it.
missed that one.
Yeah, always just people just like, yeah, go away. It's another one. Yeah, okay, okay. We got Kraken. We got, have you heard of Chat GPT or AI?
Yes, I
Yeah,
have.
those days. So yeah, with all these new changes coming, evolutions, and you're married as well. On yoga therapy, are there challenges or opportunities in the years to come with what the world is currently going through?
I think there are definitely opportunities for yoga therapy. I think more and more people are placing more importance on their health and wellness, and they're looking at different modalities that might be suitable for them. And yoga therapy is very much like an unknown therapy or an unknown modality. So, not many people really know a lot about it. So, I think there's huge opportunity for it to grow as an industry and, yeah, just to bring more awareness to it as a therapy.
Yeah. Well, what would be a prediction? What would you say in 5 years' time? Where do you think you would be with yoga therapy? Are we still
Good
on the
question.
coast near the beach, or
I hope so.
are there some retreats?
Yeah, I
What's
mean,
what's
nothing
on the cards?
5 years from now, it feels like a very long time away, but I'm sure it'll come around quicker than what we could ever imagine. Um, I've never really been one to plan like 3, 5, 10 years in advance. But I definitely
Okay,
have some
1, 4, and 9 then.
maybe one, two. Um, no, I definitely have some goals in mind. Like I certainly would love to run some retreats later down the line, whatever that might look like, and pull in, I guess, some of my passions into that as well. So perhaps it would look something like hybrid yoga and hiking retreats, or more specialized yoga therapy retreats, or I would also like to potentially work in a clinic environment for a little while to gain a little bit more experience as well. So, but I think like the biggest learning for me around yoga therapy is the power really comes in working with people one-on-one. So, just building up and working with more and more people in a one-on-one setting, I think is my more immediate goal. And I guess like the interesting thing about yoga therapy is we would work with anyone for as long as they would need us to, but it's the kind of offering that you would hope, you're really making an impact on someone's like health or well-being. So um, it's something we want to empower people with themselves as well, like empower people with personal practices that they can then continue to do throughout their life.
Hey, thanks so much for joining the episode of Table Talk today. We hope you found some helpful tips and inspiration in staying healthy and fit, even with a busy schedule. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Stay tuned for our next conversation. Until then, keep prioritizing yourself, your health, your fitness, and we'll see you on the next Table